Hi, Zizaran here with another Diablo 4 video, and in this one we're going to go over the itemization and things that we've learned in the early access beta. Important to know that this is only from the beta, because endgame gear could change this and hopefully will, as well as uniques will affect this a lot. But I wanted to talk about my fears, because itemization is the #1 important thing, so this is probably the subject that I will be the most negative on. It's important to remember that I'm a Path of Exile player. I also like Last Epoch, so advanced itemization is something that I really treasure and love in my games, and Diablo 2 as well has really cool itemization. So keep that in mind, but yeah, probably the subject I will be the most negative about, because I'm very worried that they haven't got this right. So first off, you start with white and blue items, and it starts off with not very interesting items, and that is very normal for every action role-playing game. There's not that many stats you can put on items early on that will be super interesting to the player, but some games do start having some stats and maybe starting to teach the player about resistances, like, oh, well, you're in a cold area now, you're going to start having cold resistances. Diablo 4 is moving towards a more simple route where they do have cold and lightning resistances, but they are mostly expecting the player to stack armor, and armor is really important, and things like cold and lightning become a lot less important because armor applies to everything. They do say in an interview that this was because players found it really confusing that the boss that does lightning damage suddenly does a lot of damage to people that have no resist and nothing to people that do have resist. I found that kind of insulting as a gamer, because this is a very simple concept that even Diablo 2 had. So I'm not necessarily sure that it really was needed to bundle armor into this. And I think, you know, just slowly teaching players that at the start of the game, cold areas, want to stack some cold damage, maybe even give them a warning. We have pop-ups now, and they have notifications for a lot of things in Diablo 4, so I'm sure it wouldn't hurt. You could even display it at the top of the zone, like a little fucking snowflake would be indicator of like, hey, maybe get some cold resist. This isn't the #1 important thing though, but there's a few gripes I really had with early itemization that I thought was really annoying. For the most part, you are literally just looking green equals smiley face. And by that I mean you are looking at the item power and armor, etc. And if it's green, it is pretty much an upgrade, because the stats don't really matter, especially things like intelligence, strength, etc. Well, even if I had stacked and really gone for 70 int and really actually looked out for it, this is such a small thing. Like, you can't even influence your character's damage or rage or energy shield generation by these, because the amounts of getting an extra 20 or even 40 is 2 or 4% of an increment. So these are stats that are entirely endgame only relevant, and you're going to need a large amount of these stats for them to actually matter. It is very important to note this is only an experience with low level itemization, which isn't necessarily super important. Most other games do have items that you do notice putting on. You notice your character becoming different or stronger. So having none of that in a game for me, and literally just looking for up arrow equals smile, it takes me a little back to the initial Diablo 4 videos that we saw back in like 2017 or 18. I can't remember. The absolute first ones, where they were basically, okay, well, the gear right now it's attack and defense. They got a lot of backlash for that because it's too simple. But from what we're seeing right now in the early access, it's not actually that much more advanced. This is why I'm really hoping this is going to be a lot more advanced in the end game. It doesn't need to be as advanced as other games like Last Epoch or Path of Exile, but I wouldn't want it to be this simple either. This is something that's really important to me. Even when you start getting rare gear, now you're starting to, let's say around level 12 to 15, get a few more interesting stats. Like, you will get implicits, like boots can have, for example, you get an additional dash, so you can dash twice every few seconds. Every time you use the dash, or it's called evade, it briefly grants you 40% movement speed. These are cool and nice to look out for, but still, a lot of the filler ones at this point are incredibly boring. 2% total armor, 2.5% damage reduction. A lot of these things are they're very filler, and you can compare this to like other games. You really notice a big difference on having some sort of agency over your character, because while you could argue like, yeah, well, they matter a little bit, or, well, you know, I felt they were impactful. You really don't have that much of a choice for your character. There was only 2 or 3 times during the entire gearing process where it was an up arrow and I was like, "Ah, but I'm actually going to keep the one that's slightly lower." It was only 3 points lower. So I was like, you know what? This one has plus gem levels. And that is the stat that you're mostly looking for. Outside of legendaries or things that have like, you know, special abilities, you're looking for things like +1 rank to rapid fire, +1 rank to conjuration spells. And these have been pretty interesting because it actually unlocks skills that you haven't even put points in yet. And that was really interesting and cool. I would love to see more things like maybe rank is so important that you get a second Hydra at rank level 5, 6, or 7, not just from like the legendary thing. Maybe there's a reason to actually go above the default 5 that you can set. Making it a little, like changing a little bit based on plus skills would make the plus skills even more interesting. But at least these were cool to look out for and something I did care about. But at least so far, with the limited stuff we have available, and again, it is really important to realize that this is only super low level shit. But from what we've seen so far, yeah, the itemization there was pretty boring. On the sword, my first character, I noticed I was barely getting any legendaries. I only got 2, and I was like, wow. I was really, really surprised because I thought I would be decked out in legendaries by the time I was level 24 or something like that. Well, let's go in and look at what my rogue looks like. Okay, no, I am actually decked out by level 24. The drop rate of legendaries is already a little bit too high. Now, you could chalk that up to being an early access thing, but I don't think that's the case. I am assuming that they would drop at a similar drop rate on launch as well. I personally think that makes the item just, I don't know if legendary is the right word, if all of my items are legendary. All your items being legendary is such a low level when you're just going around killing random trash on the surface of the planet. I don't know about that personally. And obviously it's a very different game than the other ones I play. I get that it's a lot more casual friendly. I feel bad being so negative because I am having such a good experience too. I just gotta make you understand this is the most important thing to me in a video game. Every piece of gear here is legendary, and while the drop rate is a little bit too high, you pretty much get almost a guaranteed legendary from treasure goblins. Most people were saying they got them from that. And you also get quite often legendaries from like the random encounters. However, the gambler is a 1 in 3 chance at the moment to give you a legendary. You cannot get unique items at the moment, and they are supposed to be a lot more rare. And people in chat that had played the in-game beta said that it was pretty interesting. A lot of the uniques were really cool and does give you the same feeling of Diablo 2. Like, you know, a good example, Skin of the Viper Magi. I find one, I'm ecstatic. I know exactly what this item is. Whereas these legendary items have none of that feeling, because the legendary items can drop with, well, this could be on a glove, it could be on a helmet, and that I think is terrible. Now, the uniques apparently don't have this problem. I can't speak to that, but apparently the uniques are they're more unique. But I was expecting something different from legendaries. They don't wield the name legendary to me. And having these abilities shared between so many things, like I think I have that on both of them. You can see that I have, oh, sorry. I had this on an actual bow as well, and I disenchanted that bow to put it on a crossbow because it was more powerful. You can see that this here, lower level, is 38% chance versus this is 72% chance. So it's a lot better. And if I wanted to just get the aspect of this, it would probably be like 20%. That is a nice vector for items with like re-farming them and things like that. I think that's very cool. I'm not very happy about being fully decked out in legendary gear at level 24. Another example of something that's a little silly. If you defeat a Shava, this is the reward you get. That is how many legendaries you get. I don't know if a Shava is a level 25 world boss when we go live. Maybe it's an endgame thing always. But if it's supposed to be things like this that you can actually defeat early, you actually get this. And I believe there's something that I'm not 100% clear on, because there's a bonus. It's a time-gated thing, and you can only claim it 1 per week. I don't know if that's these drops or quite what the bonus is, but there is something about the world bosses that is time-gated. So I'm not quite sure what you can actually farm by waiting for them to spawn repeatedly. I'm not a huge fan personally of time-gated mechanics or just having to wait for things and forced cooldowns, but we are in a more MMO game than an ARPG. We can look through the items I have so far, and you can see here I have like some +1 rank, We have some cold res, some armor, etc., and things like that. Plus 10 willpower, etc. And this is all on like legendary gear. Plus 9 all res. And I had never at any point really felt that I really needed to like cap any resistances. This character was endangered twice. There was one boss which I basically got whittled down. And then the boss that just killed me with poison. I do believe having shadow or toxic resistance and a potion would have saved me there. So that's pretty much all the gear. You can also put gems and stuff. They will do different things depending on what gear they're in, and you can upgrade gear. So you can see here that I've upgraded this bow. The best thing you can do is level to 25, and then when you are level 25, you gamble, because the gambler chooses items that are your level. So if you gamble at level 13, you will get level 13 uniques, or legendary, sorry. With that being said, please let me know in the comments down below, what do you think about the itemization? Especially want to hear from people that like it. What do you like about it? Examples like, you find other games too complicated, because I do really hope that this will be a great ARPG, MMO, whatever, that I will play every time it resets. And I can see myself, depending on when it resets, hopefully it doesn't reset close to other games, being able to cycle between this Last Epoch and Path of Exile would be amazing. And yeah, I really want it to be a great game. So I would love to hear a lot of different viewpoints, because all I can do is speak to my own. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Sub if you like it, but more importantly, try to die than I do.